For 24 years, Marcus built houses with his hands, every wall, every roof, every foundation. While he worked, his wife Elena managed the money. She was the expert. He trusted her with every penny. But behind the bank statements he couldn't read, Elena was building something else, a secret fortune, properties in her name, hidden accounts, a double life funded by his sweat. And for over a decade, Marcus had no idea he was being robbed by the person who promised to protect him. Marcus and Elena met in the early 90s. He was a builder. Strong hands, sharp mind for construction, but words on paper never made sense to him. Functionally illiterate, not stupid, just different. Elena was a property consultant, smart, confident. She understood contracts, mortgages, investments. When they married in 1994, the division felt natural. He'd handle the physical work. She'd handle the paperwork, and Marcus loved her for it. Every week, he handed over his earnings. Every month, Elena told him how their savings were growing. Joint accounts, she said. Their future together. He believed her because why wouldn't he? Marriage is partnership. Partnership is trust. When Elena mentioned buying investment properties, Marcus nodded along. When she said she was handling the legal details, he felt grateful. She was protecting them both, but there were small moments. Tiny cracks most people would miss. Elena sometimes mentioned deals Marcus didn't remember agreeing to. She'd brush off his questions with a smile. "Don't worry about it. I've got this covered." If Marcus asked to see paperwork, she'd spread documents across the table. Numbers, legal terms, paragraphs that looked like foreign languages to him. "See? All good," she'd say, and Marcus would trust her. Because that's what you do when you love someone. For 13 years, this system worked, or seemed to. Marcus built extensions, renovated homes, poured concrete. Elena managed their wealth. He thought they were building their future brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck. He had no idea that starting in 2007, everything was about to change. Between 2007 and 2018, Elena began moving in silence. She bought properties without telling Marcus. Not one, not two, multiple. She'd use money from their joint accounts, funnel it into investments only she controlled, then hide the paperwork where Marcus would never find it. Because he couldn't read it anyway, she sold properties he didn't know they owned. Hundreds of thousands of pounds changed hands. Bank statements came and went. Marcus couldn't read them. Elena could spin any story she wanted. "We're doing great," she'd tell him over dinner. Meanwhile, she was creating a separate financial universe, one where Marcus's money existed, but Marcus didn't. This is what made it so cruel. Elena wasn't some distant scammer. She was lying next to him every night, kissing him goodbye every morning, playing the role of supportive wife while systematically stealing his future. Marcus would sometimes feel confused. "Didn't we have more saved?" he'd ask. Elena had answers ready. "You're misremembering. We spent that on the roof repair, remember?" Or, "That money went into the investment I told you about." And Marcus would doubt himself. Maybe he did forget. Maybe she did mention it. After all, she was the expert. This is financial gaslighting at its finest. Elena controlled the entire narrative. She could rewrite history because Marcus had no way to fact-check her, no access to truth. Every document, every statement, every contract might as well have been written in code. And Elena held the key. Marcus kept working, 70-hour weeks. His body ached, but he pushed through because he believed he was building something. Security, retirement, a life together. What he didn't know was that Elena was building her exit strategy, account by account, property by property. She was preparing for a future that didn't include him. The psychological toll was invisible. Marcus felt proud of their teamwork. He bragged to friends about Elena's business sense. "She's the smart one," he'd say with a smile. And Elena would smile back. But behind that smile was a decade-long con. Cold, calculated, sustained deception so complete that even the victim praised his abuser. 2019, after 24 years of marriage, Elena filed for divorce. No warning, no attempt to fix things. Just papers and lawyers. Marcus was heartbroken. But heartbreak was about to become the least of his problems. During divorce proceedings, courts require full financial disclosure. Assets must be listed, bank accounts revealed, properties documented. And that's when Marcus saw it. The real picture. The numbers didn't add up. Properties existed that he'd never heard of. Accounts in Elena's name filled with money he'd earned. Investments he never approved. Hundreds of thousands of pounds that should have been theirs, now hidden in places he couldn't reach. Marcus felt his world tilt. Every conversation replayed in his head with new context. Every time she said, "Don't worry," or "I've got this handled," every document she'd showed him that he couldn't read. It was all part of the same lie, a lie that lasted 11 years. He hired lawyers. They started digging. The deeper they went, the worse it got. Elena had systematically diverted joint funds into private assets. She'd exploited his illiteracy like a weapon. She knew he couldn't monitor transactions, couldn't read contracts, couldn't verify anything she told him. And she used that knowledge to rob him blind. When Marcus confronted her, Elena denied everything. She claimed he was confused, misremembering, making things up. She told the court he'd always been aware of the investments, that he'd agreed to everything. Classic gaslighting, now weaponized in court. She painted Marcus as incompetent, unreliable, a man whose word couldn't be trusted because he couldn't read. But forensic accountants don't lie. The evidence was cold and clear. Transfers, property purchases, hidden accounts, patterns of deception spanning over a decade. Elena's story crumbled under the weight of paper trails she thought Marcus would never see. January 2023, High Court. Judge Madeleine Reardon delivered a ruling that made legal history. Elena was found guilty of economic abuse under the Domestic Abuse Act. Not violence, not threats. Economic abuse through exploitation of vulnerability. The judge didn't mince words. Elena had maintained a dominant position through strategic control. She'd deliberately placed assets out of Marcus's reach. She'd exploited his functional illiteracy to commit sustained, calculated deception, and the court would not ignore it. Instead of the standard 50-50 divorce split, Marcus was awarded 53% of the marital assets, roughly £800,000 of a £1.5 million pot. It was a landmark decision. Courts rarely adjust splits based on conduct, but this wasn't ordinary conduct. This was abuse. Marcus won, but winning didn't erase the damage. 24 years of trust shattered, a marriage built on lies, and the haunting question that would follow him forever: how many other moments did I miss? Elena didn't need violence to destroy Marcus. She used something more subtle. Strategic incompetence positioning by framing his illiteracy as a limitation and herself as indispensable. She created total information asymmetry. He was blind. She controlled what he could see. This is how covert financial abuse works. No bruises, no screaming, just quiet, sustained control that hollows out a person's autonomy while they smile and say thank you. 3 red flags you need to recognize in your own life. First, a partner who insists on handling all finances while actively discouraging your involvement. "I'm better at this" becomes "you're not allowed to know." Second, complexity theater, making money matters seem more complicated than they are to maintain control. And third, secrecy disguised as caretaking, hidden accounts and unexplained transactions justified as taking care of things. Economic abuse thrives in darkness. Whether you struggle with reading, language, disability, or you just trust deeply, maintain financial visibility. Joint accounts must be transparent, not just shared. Trust is built on openness, not dependency. This case became a landmark because courts historically ignored financial manipulation. But if someone exploits your vulnerability to enrich themselves at your expense, that is abuse. Full stop. Marcus spent 2 decades building a life he thought was shared. Elena spent 11 years quietly dismantling it for parts. And the scariest thing? If she hadn't filed for divorce, he might never have known. Some betrayals hide in plain sight, written in languages we were never taught to read. If you recognized any of these patterns in your own life, you're not alone. Hit subscribe to see the manipulation tactics most people never notice.